Let's talk about the most successful public relations campaign in the history of human civilization. It is a lie so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche that we literally base our entire adult identities around it. The lie is this: sitting in a rolling chair staring at a glowing rectangle for exactly 40 hours a week is the natural, optimal, and morally correct way for a human being to exist. We treat the 5-day workweek like it was handed down on glowing stone tablets from the heavens. But it wasn't. It was popularized roughly a century ago by a guy named Henry Ford so he could sell more cars to his factory workers, who previously didn't have a weekend to drive them on. That is it. That is the genesis of your Tuesday afternoon misery, a corporate sales tactic from the 1920s. Yet here we are, 100 years later, frantically typing emails on our smartphones while sitting on the toilet, terrified that if we stop producing value for exactly 12 seconds, the global economy will implode and we will be hunted for sport. Welcome to the global work culture war, a battle between biological reality and corporate delusion. On one side of the planet, we have a system actively trying to stretch the limits of human endurance, treating sleep as a character flaw. And on the other side, we have a rogue faction of countries running a massive, terrifying experiment. They looked at the 40-hour workweek, shrugged, and simply chopped a whole day off. Let us dive into the madness. We are going to start at the deep end of the burnout pool. We are talking about the 996 work culture. If you are unfamiliar with 996, it is a schedule popularized by the booming tech industry in China. It stands for working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That is 72 hours of mandatory grinding. In the United States, we have a slightly softer but equally toxic version of this called the hustle culture. This is the internet-fueled delusion where tech bros wake up at 4 a.m. to take an ice bath, drink a smoothie made of raw kale and adaptogenic mushroom dust, and brag about sleeping under their desks to maximize shareholder value. The philosophy here is aggressively simple. Output is strictly correlated to input. If you want a company to make more money, you physically chain the employee to their laptop for more hours. You squeeze the human sponge until every single drop of productivity drips into the quarterly earnings report. But there is a fatal flaw in this logic. It assumes the human brain operates like a combustion engine. Put in more gas, the wheels spin longer. But you are not a Toyota Camry. You are a fragile, anxiety-ridden primate. The human brain has a biological battery. You only have a finite amount of deep, cognitive focus available in a single day. Science puts it at roughly 3 to 4 hours, tops. After that, your cognitive battery is effectively in the red. You are not actually working anymore. You are performing the theater of work. You are staring blankly at a spreadsheet. You are endlessly organizing your inbox, and you are sitting in useless meetings, nodding thoughtfully while mentally ranking your favorite types of cheese. The 996 schedule and the American hustle culture do not actually produce 72 hours of brilliant, world-changing innovation. They produce an exhausted, depressed workforce that makes catastrophic mistakes, burns out completely, and requires massive healthcare expenditures to fix their stress-induced heart conditions. The overall economic output per hour actually plummets because everyone is moving through a thick fog of permanent exhaustion. Now, let us look at the people who decided to stop the madness. Let us look at the data from the greatest corporate heresy of the 21st century, the 4-day work week. Between 2015 and 2019, the country of Iceland ran a massive trial. They took thousands of workers, everyone from office bureaucrats to hospital nurses to preschool teachers, and they cut their hours from 40 down to 35 or 36 with zero reduction in pay. 4 days on, 3 days off, same exact salary. When they announced this, traditional economists nearly swallowed their tongues. The prediction was absolute chaos. Companies would collapse, productivity would crater, society would crumble into a lazy, unproductive wasteland. But then, the data came back, and it was a complete, undeniable triumph. Productivity did not drop. In most workplaces, it actually went up. Services were maintained or improved, but the human metrics, they skyrocketed. Stress went down, burnout plummeted. Employees reported actually seeing their families in the daylight. The trial was so overwhelmingly successful that today, nearly 90% of Iceland's entire working population has reduced hours or the right to legally demand them. Then the United Kingdom said, "Hold my tea." In 2022, they launched the largest 4-day workweek trial in the history of the world. 61 companies, 3,000 workers, 6 months. Same deal, 100% of the pay for 80% of the time in exchange for a commitment to maintain 100% of the productivity. 6 months later, the results were published. Company revenue across the trial actually increased by an average of 1.4%. Resignations dropped by 57%. Sick days fell by 65%. Of the 61 companies that tried it, 56 of them decided to keep it permanently. 18 of them made it official policy immediately. How is this possible? How do you remove an entire working day from the calendar and actually make more money? It comes down to a psychological principle known as Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give a human being 5 days to finish a project, it will take exactly 5 days. They will stretch it out. They will schedule a pre-meeting to plan for the actual meeting. They will spend 2 hours choosing the perfect font for a presentation that exactly 3 people will look at. But if you tell that same human being, if you finish your work by Thursday afternoon, you get a 3-day weekend, a miracle occurs. Suddenly, that 1-hour meeting becomes a brisk 15-minute email. The pointless busywork evaporates. The water cooler gossip stops. Employees ruthlessly prioritize their tasks because the reward is the most valuable currency on earth, their own free time. The 4-day workweek forces companies to actually evaluate what work is strictly necessary. It strips away the performative nonsense. It turns out, when you let people recharge their biological batteries, when you let them sleep, exercise, and have a personal life that does not involve weeping in a supply closet, they come back to the office as high-functioning adults. They work faster, smarter, and with significantly fewer errors. We are currently locked in a global delusion, pretending that exhaustion is a badge of honor. We brag about how little sleep we got, as if destroying our own central nervous system is a competitive sport. The data is staring us right in the face. The countries and companies clinging to the hustle culture are bleeding money through high turnover, massive healthcare costs, and horribly inefficient output. They are paying for 5 days of labor and getting exactly 3 days of actual work disguised as 5. Meanwhile, the companies adopting the 4-day week are poaching the absolute best talent, reducing their overhead and posting record profits, all while their employees are out on a Friday afternoon enjoying the sunshine. The 5-day workweek is an outdated piece of software from the Industrial Revolution, currently trying to run on the hardware of the modern digital economy. It is glitching. It is crashing our systems. The question is not whether the 4-day workweek is lazy. The data unequivocally proves it is genius. The real question is, how much longer are we going to keep punishing ourselves just because Henry Ford thought it was a good idea 100 years ago? It is time to log off. It is time to go home. The economy will survive without you staring at a spreadsheet on a Friday afternoon. I promise.